Hi everyone, I'm Tony from Southern Sustenance. Today I just want to make a short video on the power of observation. So I have a lot of people that ask me about plants and how big they can get and whether they will fruit or seed in a climate and all that sort of important things. Something that I do myself is I go to places like parks or old homesteads or botanic gardens, and I see whether the plants growing there are in their favored climate. And you can sort of tell by how vigorous a tree is and whether it's known to be weedy in the area that it's growing. So I just wanted to show a few examples today in some plants that I've spotted and what I think of them growing in this climate here. So here we're in the ACT, and we get quite cool winters below zero, and then quite warm summers, 35 and above degrees. So one tree that I'm going to show is, well, it's more of a bush, but it's called a lilac. And you can see here that it's already, 2-3 meters tall. It's just a white flowered plant there. And you can see how much of it is growing here. This sort of indicates that it's either grown, there was a tree, maybe it was cut down and suckered, or it's actually been able to set seed and disperse all around here. So we know that this likes growing in this climate. You've got a camellia here behind, and you see it's got its seed pods. So once this is mature and it dries up, it'll split open and it'll have seeds. So things like this show you whether trees like the climate that they're growing in. Some trees that aren't growing in a favoured climate, there'll be stunted growth, it won't grow, it won't seed, it may not flower. So this is just one example. I'm also going to show you some others and just some other things to look out for, because anyone can go to a nursery or a Bunnings and buy plants, but you don't really appreciate its size or the nature of the tree until you see it growing in a wild. And you can either go to where the trees are from, so in Australia, the Australian native trees, or you can see where they're naturalized. So in South Australia, for example, olive tree, or the wild variant of that, it's weedy, it grows everywhere. The seeds love the fruit, it's got oily fruit, and they'll spread it around. So we'll stop here, we'll move to somewhere else, and I'll explain a few more things to keep a lookout on. So just behind the lilac on the other side, we've got an old apricot tree here, and you can tell by its leaves and by its fruit now that they're coming along. So who knows how old that is. And you know that this was planted here, this was part of a homestead, because you can see those agapanthus there at the bottom. So this gives you clues as to whether these trees are edible, and that when you start seeing a lot of fruit trees, gives you an indication. Here we've got that ornamental, I believe, plum, wild. It's been planted here. There's a couple of them in a row with the apricot there behind it. As we can see, there's some suckers here at the bottom, and they're sort of in a line. So there's one line there and one line there from the tree. So that sort of indicates that it hasn't come from the seeds, but instead they're just the root is near the surface, it's been nicked and it's come up. So the reason I know that, or the way to confirm it, is I've actually tried to pull one out and it's just broken off from that main root. So you can still plant these, but that's just a sign. We've got this shrub here, and I don't really know what it is, and definitely planted here because you can see the tire that someone's put there to plant it. It sort of looks like a blueberry, to be honest. Not sure. You can see small little berries starting to form, whatever it is. So found this mature mulberry tree just fruiting heavily. I'll just flip it around to show you. So we're looking at easy 8-10 meters tall, huge. And what I was talking about is trees like this, that it's nature, it's growing well, they have other benefits too. So this gives a lot of fruit. So if you have animals let's say you have chickens, all this fruit just coming on the ground, this is all food for them that you don't have to pay for. So it's forage for them. Yeah, you just see what plants you can use, whether they're suited to the climate and whether they meet your needs. Look at that. Another thing to observe, we've got a mulberry tree here. We've got the one we just spoke to down there, which is like 10 meters tall, whereas this is, you know, maybe 5 meters tall, but like it's sickly looking, it's really suffering, it's gnarled up. Maybe they're the same age, but you know, you sort of observe why did that one grow so big? And you can sort of see that a bit of tin there, and it's stopping the water from running off. So, you know, you can tell, oh, okay, this tree likes water. You know, it's fruiting heavily, whereas this one, yeah, it survived, but sort of suffering there. Sometimes you have opportunities to get old varieties of fruit. So, you know, new varieties may be bred for the longevity and all that sort of stuff. But mulberry as a fruit, it's not a widespread fruit now. Not many people know about it, or, you know, people know about it from, you know, their grandparents. So, you know, if you ever want one and you're sort of in the wild, and, you know, you can just grab a twig and just grow it. So why not? If we just come closer, this is an old plum tree. Who knows, maybe this variety isn't even around anymore. But as you can see, its trunk, you know, that could be 50 years old. And it's probably that's 7-8 meters tall. So when you see stuff like this, you know it's an old variety. Maybe you don't know if it's grafted or not, but the great thing about, at least for stone fruits, is generally the genetics in the seeds are the same as the plants. So you don't have to bother about trying to grow cuttings and all that. You could do some grafting if you already have the species, or you can just eat the fruit when it's ready and grow the same tree on its own roots. Or you can try to see if there's any suckers around. So can't see any suckers from here, but yeah, just something worth pointing out. The other observation is, you know, we've got here, there's no irrigation here. Everything's, you know, coming down slope. You saw the mulberry there where it had no access to water. So it was living, it wasn't too happy. But the plum trees, they're doing just great. So whether it's this particular variety or plums in general, you know, it's not receiving much water, but it's heavily fruiting. So come closer. So you can't see it on the video, but this smells incredible. This tree is known as a black locust. It's a very weedy tree, but it attracts a lot of bees, has a lot of nectar. Smells absolutely great. We can see how big the tree is, and it is, you know, 10 plus meters tall, if not more, 15 meters. One thing to point out about trees like this, you have a look around, and this is a sucker. And look at the massive thorns it has on it. So sometimes a tree gives away clues as to how prone it is to suckering. So this tree is known for being very weedy, and the reason why, not only does it make a lot of seeds in these little pods that grow, but if the tree is injured, if the roots are nicked, if the tree's cut down, a lot of these come up, and you'll never get rid of it. This is actually, when you have the mop top trees, this is what they're grafted onto. So it's in the same family. Smells great. You know, if you have a bit of land that you don't mind, you know, that has a space to accommodate a tree like this, it's okay. But, you know, it's a very toxic tree too. So, you know, maybe you buy something from Marketplace and you don't really know what it is. Yeah, you don't necessarily want something that you'll never be able to get rid of in the future. So I'm going to show you some other better examples of how cut trees like this have just suckered everywhere. So we've got some black locusts here. The flowers, they've started coming off. But it makes you wonder, where have they actually come from? Because when you look around, you know, we've got a big ash tree there. But how have they got in here? Did they get here by seed? Maybe. But more likely is there's been a stump that's been cut. So you can see that straight away there. But then you come around this embankment, you look at it all, and for that little stump, it doesn't really suggest that all of these came up from that root system. So have a bit more of a look, and you see that big stump here. You know, that's a couple feet in diameter there. This big tree would have spawned these other ones, and maybe even that other stump that was there. And then all along here there's black locusts, and all along the slope there's cut stumps. And it's just produced all these other black locusts, and very spiky, very nice smelling black locusts. So this gives you a red flag, and it's not just this particular variety. A lot of trees do this, and I'll take you out to show you a couple more and just give you an idea of how trees in general stay alive. We've got one of those original homesteads there, but also these trees there. So they're honey locusts. I sort of did a bit of looking into the leaves and all that to identify. It doesn't have the huge thorns that wild ones do, so obviously some cultivar, but all of that plant is edible to your cows and your horses and all that, unlike the black locusts, which are not. So just something worth pointing out. They also have pods much bigger than the black locusts, so let's see if we can find one on the ground to show you. But yeah, just worth pointing out that a lot of these trees here, they have some use. They were planted here as a homestead. Even this big ash tree, you know, it doesn't provide food to animals, but it provides shelter. I was just walking along this road and I came across this peach tree, and you can sort of tell that someone's thrown a seed and it's grown. It doesn't make sense for someone to plant a tree like this. You can't water it, you know, it's never been sort of cut or anything. That's not to say it doesn't have good fruit, but someone's just eaten a bit of fruit and thrown the seed. And if we come here, now we're looking, we see a line on the edge of the road. So I think someone's just come and they've tried to plant something to sort of stabilize this sort of embankment. This is a hawthorn tree. I don't think there's no fruit on it. Oh, there's a little bit of fruit. Again, it's a weedy tree, but not like the other trees I was pointing out. There's a bit of fruit. People make jams and jellies and all that sort of stuff from it in the past. And this is just looks like some sort of wild plum. Maybe it's ornamental for the fruit and the dark color of leaves. You see them all along the streets. Here we just have some, again, that red plum and a few other plants that are growing there, and it sort of makes this shelter for animals. Unfortunately, a lot of these plants are not native, so the animals that it generally helps are your invasive species, are your rabbits, are your animals like that just destroy the environment. So, you know, you have to be mindful of the plants that you plant, because the plants change the environment around them. The black locusts provide shade and shelter, but they also turn an area, a grassland, into a woodland. These, much the same, they harbour those pest species. If we swing it around the other side, we can see that, you know, got some power lines and some ash that have been cut. Again, this was, as I remember it, a very shady area. So now that shade isn't there, or there's less of it, it actually changes the water retention abilities of the soil, because, you know, water will just run off. So we've got this thorny bush here in full flower. Again, you know, harbours those pest species. Don't know what it is, but those flowers stink and not smell any good. Again, these ash trees, they might not be spiky like the black locust, and they might not be toxic, but they spread around rapidly by the seeds. Just a quick video, everyone, so you know what the power of observation can do for you, to know the nature of plants and how you can use that to plant something that can help you out in making the microclimate that you want, or save you a lot of heartache from planting something that is very difficult to remove. Till next time, see ya.